Prior to leaving for his summit meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Wednesday, President Trump was asked the following question about whether he considers Americans' financial situation in making his decisions. And here's the clip.
I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody.
Now, if Democrats don't use this clip in every campaign ad for Senate, for U.S. Senate, for House of Representatives, state legislature, governor, dog catcher, they are out of their minds. Because the bottom line is Donald Trump doesn't care about Americans' financial situation. And just in case you thought that you think of this as being an isolated incident, here's a comment he made last year after rolling out his tariffs in response to Americans' worries about their prices being driven up by the rise in tariffs.
Maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, and maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
So you see there's a consistency here. Donald Trump does not care about ordinary Americans. Donald Trump doesn't care about the people who work for him. The only person that Donald Trump cares about is Donald Trump. And this is also reflected in his cabinet. If you look at the following clip of Treasury Secretary Howard Lutnick during one of the first government shutdowns, talking about whether a loss of Social Security checks would even matter to Americans.
Let's say Social Security didn't send out their checks this month. My mother-in-law, who's 94, she wouldn't call and complain. She just wouldn't. She'd think something got messed up, and she'll get it next month. A fraudster always makes the loudest noise, screaming, yelling, and complaining.
The extent of tone deafness being executed by this administration is truly staggering. And it's also reflected in a follow-up question that was also asked yesterday to Donald Trump on the White House lawn about his handling of the economy.
Mr. President, you promised to bring inflation down. It's now at its highest level in 3 years. Are your policies not working? What's happening?
Policies are working incredibly. If you go back to just before the war, for the last 3 months, inflation was at 1.7%. Now, we had a choice. Let these lunatics have a nuclear weapon. If you want to do that, then you're a stupid person, and you happen to be. I mean, I know you very well.
What you can see from this is that Donald Trump is deeply defensive about the performance of the economy under his watch. The only thing that seems to even register with him is the performance of the stock market. That is what Donald Trump sees as the economy. He has no conception of the struggles that Americans are going through every day. He has no conception of the rise in gas prices that Americans are dealing with every day. I had to fill up my tank yesterday. I paid $5.30 a gallon to fill up my tank. And that has been going up and up and up. We're seeing inflation numbers that are going up and up and up. The April inflation numbers were 3.8%, which is the highest it's been in some time. Those numbers are continuing to rise. And the pressures on energy prices because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is going to continue to cause those prices to rise. And there is literally no end in sight. So it is no surprise when asked in the most recent CNN poll that 70% of Americans have an unfavorable view of Donald Trump's handling of the economy. These numbers were high throughout last year because people didn't like his tariffs. And now he puts the Iran war on top of them, and those numbers have spiked even further. Now, let me be clear about one thing. It is absolutely true that Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. A nuclear weapon in the hands of Iran would be a destabilizing event for virtually everybody. And no, they cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, which is why President Obama in 2015, 2016 worked tirelessly with his Secretary John Kerry and with an international coalition to sign a treaty with Iran, which they agreed to forgo their nuclear program. That treaty was then immediately torn up by Donald Trump. So now Donald Trump is trying to do by force what had been done by negotiations several years ago. So it is clear from all of these clips and from everything that we have seen that the only thing Donald Trump cares about is himself. The only thing he cares about is himself and perhaps his family, maybe a couple of his rich friends. That is it. He doesn't care about anybody else. He doesn't care about you or me, and he also doesn't care about the Republicans in Congress who he is throwing over. He is throwing under the bus because of his performance in this area, and the Republicans in Congress are going under because of him. In large measure, they are paying the price for sticking with somebody who sticks it to them at every opportunity. And yes, I'm looking at you, Mike Johnson. I'm looking at you, John Thune. I'm looking at you, Lindsey Graham. I'm looking at you, Josh Hawley, and everybody else in Congress who has stuck with Donald Trump, everybody else in his cabinet who has stuck with Donald Trump and been thrown under the bus, every attorney who has represented him and ended up getting disbarred because they were forced to commit acts of misconduct. All of these people are part of the wrecking ball that has been Donald Trump. So yes, Donald Trump doesn't care about us. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. And if anybody has had any doubts about that, those doubts should have been erased on Wednesday.